I will come to you when you are in the silence. Once again I will write upon your heart, and I'll meet you deep inside your inner castle, where together we can take the fear apart. And you've no idea just how much I've missed you. I've been waiting many lifetimes for your call, and I will sing my song of love for those who need, and I will sing my song of love. I will come to you when emptiness surrounds you. Once again I will fill you with my life, and I'll meet you deep inside your inner castle, and I will hold you through the darkest night. And you've no idea just how much I adore you, for if you did, you'd never feel alone. And I will sing my song of love for those who need, and I will sing my song of love. And I will sing my song of love for those who need, and I will sing my song of love to those who hear. Meet me in the silence.
Unmute yourself. Thanks. Ushabin, unmute yourself. Ushabin.
Good morning. So welcome to today's 6th day and we're going to be exploring purity and embracing the whole quality of honesty. And I think we easily use this word and say, I'm going to be very honest. And then what actually happens is we sometimes hide ourselves. So we'll give some time for that today. Good morning, Sister Ashika.
Good morning. How are you today?
Very, very good. Thank you. It feels though spring has in and winter also is in.
Got a bit chilly.
But it's beautiful.
Yeah, we sing all the cycles of time together and seasons all together, I think. So it's a good opportunity to actually explore everything together, I suppose. The season of time. So yeah, a lot of I like to introduce this word churning, but when we like sort of deep think about the things that we've listening to and explore them. And the second word that comes through is that as we explore them deeply, we inculcate and we become that. So there's a beautiful word called dharna in Hindi. And I was just thinking that as we're journeying through this past few days of spring, it's allowing us to actually change an opportunity to look at some of the truths within ourselves and shift our own thought process. And it's a beautiful journey, but it can become quite taxing because it seems like a lot of work. So with purity comes like even a harder task, how do I clean up? And today with honesty is can come very loaded. It's a word that's very loaded because we're always seeking it from others, I suppose, many times. We look at others and we say, this one's just honest, or you're not being honest. And I think in our environments, honesty, and then we lose trust. Somebody has to just do one thing wrong and we lose trust. But just to really reel it back in and bring honesty back to the self. And I was just thinking about this because it's quite an emotional place to be at. And it reflects back into duality. So the duality of that which is good and that which is bad always, because that's what gives us the opportunity to make decisions about what is honest and what is dishonest. So in this duality, we're seeing things on one end. So we're exploring love and peace and the innateness of ourselves and the qualities. And on the other hand, we have that which we've acquired as defense mechanism. So it's drawing from something you said yesterday and feeling that we need to defend ourselves and we feel like stand our ground and do certain things from a certain point. And it has a certain amount of impact, and yet there's another way to do it. And it brings back that space of if I work from my truth, and that generates then honesty. If you can, and I love the word today that we're going to use later as well, as unmask. How do we shift ourselves from the duality of defending ourselves, and whether it's from anger, irritation on a gross level, and move to a subtle level of using our virtue of honesty?
So firstly, when people say I'm being honest, they feel they need to expose themselves, that they're being real. So for example, when I am upset with somebody, then I'll say, but I get upset. And so I use that to say, well, that's who I am. I get upset or I get irritated. But if you think about it, if I need to go beyond this feeling of losing my state of peace and staying very powerfully uninfluenced, it takes a lot of inner work to actually ground myself and to be planted in that pure state of awareness of my real self. So it's better if I say to you, listen, Ashika, this is my bad thing. And I actually, I have to be honest with you. This stuff just irritates me and I can't tolerate it. So basically, at that point, I let myself free from the transformation in my life to start tolerating and actually building capacity so that I don't get so affected by the changes outside. And it may be, in a way, a saving grace that we do. It's like a defense, not a protection, a self-protection method we use, that I'm actually putting my cards on the table, so don't expect more from me. So I feel that in a way, we may be conveying a very clear message to the person we're interacting with. So in a way, it feels like we're honest with them so that they don't get deceived that I'm pretending to be something very good and I really am not. But actually, the deception comes from the fact that I am selling myself short. I'm actually, and I'm going to use this word lazy here, that I don't want to make the effort from myself and build my capacity. So I just say, sorry, this is me, and please accept me the way I am. And then we carry on deceiving ourselves in being lesser than what we potentially are. So this is perhaps the thing that we need to look at. And we can only do this when we spend sufficient time with ourselves, listening to our own inner dialogue. Because, for example, if somebody lied, and yes, they did something quite dishonest, and they really then told you, fabricated something, and you seem to know behind the whole picture what's happening. So to get angry would be a natural response, and everybody will say, well, it's understandable that you became angry. But the thing is that, why did that person behave like that? Were they under fear? Was there another kind of situation that was governing them? So it's going to take from me a lot more discerning power, a lot more intuitive power, a lot more patience to find out the real cause and deal with that, than actually just say, well, this is really what happened. This person did this, and that's why I did that. So the lot of work that comes into play when I have to work with my virtues, it'll be rather just easy just to say, sorry, I have this nature, and then I feel I'm creating a disclaimer, and the disclaimer is allowing me then to behave in the way I want to. So I feel we're giving ourselves permission to be lesser. And for me, that I would say is the way we create a lack of honesty in our relationship with ourselves. And then we are also indirectly then deceiving the person as well. Because when something comes to me, sometimes I feel that it comes to me because I am ready for the next step. But because I don't have enough faith in myself, I just discount it as something that is not part of my being, and then I move away. But I think if difficulties come our way and challenges come, if we really take time, we'll realize that we do have the capacity, but it does take a bit of work. And that's where we can really make a shift.
So this thought that comes through then is that, if we explore ourselves with respect to the quiet nature, just say, we'll use anger for today as an example, and there could be a whole lot of other things. It brings it back to, we were talking about purity from a perspective of humility. And I feel like there's a rigidness that then happens in us because it makes us sort of dry and we don't flow. So today's honesty, the expression of honesty that comes from being pure, or understanding myself as a pure being, understanding myself as the one who is this child again of God, who has this divinity. And it draws again from power of knowing that I belong again. Because we're only defensive and we only pull out sort of these weapons to protect ourselves when we're feeling that we are the ones who need to protect, and we're protecting not the energy being that I am, but we're protecting the body, the humanness of the self, because that's what's exposed for everyone to acknowledge. And so stepping into the space of honesty, the stepping into the space of my own purity, I have to acknowledge that I've acquired behaviors and that they're gross, meaning that they're physically there. But then I start sort of filtering in or dropping in drop by drop the essence of the virtue that I have, the quality that I have of purity into my every action. So why I'm saying it's hard, because there's many a soul who you feel that the trauma of these emotions are felt way after the event, and nobody's putting their finger on the pulse at that point in time. So it's like, maybe I'm asking you for, again, the magic seed that we plant at this point that says, when you catch it at that point, then you don't allow it to grow, you don't allow it to fester.
So, Ashika, there's something I'm coming that for me, I did practically that really helped a lot, because firstly, I found that I was able to live a life where I could just do one thing after another. And for whatever reason, whether it's my enthusiasm or whatever, and I could just really, and it will look to everyone that I'm busy, but I just felt like after this, I felt like I could do this and I could do this, I could do this. And so what happened is that this whole notion of doing and taking, like you get this adrenaline, you get this a very nice high feeling when even if you made a pancake and it flipped over perfectly, do you know how happy it can make you? And so there are so many little things that you wrote the perfect letter and it went off and you got the right response, or I'm talking about little things even. But what happens in our day is that we begin to eat off the little successes in the doing that I am. And so it can create a very intoxicated, it's almost like an addiction in its own self. So what happens is that we move further and further into the acquired, the actions that we perform, and we start living in that kind of reality that this is life, we have to be practical, we get the job done, we feel good, and we just move on. And so what happens is that something that is more subtle, that at every action that I perform, there's an impact of a vibration that actually gets imprinted on the soul. So it's like every time I use my knife and I cut, I'm actually making a deeper groove into whatever I'm cutting. And so in ourselves, every time we perform an action, we're also creating these grooves or these kind of habits within ourselves, which you described as being acquired, which is true, it's learned behavior. So what happens is that we can't see anything other than goodness, because we're being productive, we getting things done, we're feeling good on the inside, but it's almost a little bit like a drug. And then what happens is that if little things start like failing, I send that letter with the right intentions, but people misunderstood it. And then I can see a little bit of like a thread where now things are falling, they're not really rising. And then I start feeling that things are not working out. That's, a good thing, because it's almost like we wake up from that intoxication and we start thinking, okay, so I was actually riding on things working out to feel good. And that was where I was deceiving myself, that my honesty was, or my happiness was not coming from my real being, but from my doing being. So there's a couple of things that can happen. And I'll give you one example. There's a saying that they use in the Indian mythology, the disinterest of a graveyard. And they speak of that is that we all experience this from time to time when somebody we love leaves their physical body or they pass on. And when there's a certain amount of loss we experience, For a short period of time, we think, what's the point living? All these things are illusionary. We don't really need to get engaged in all of this stuff. And we kind of step back and become a little bit more conscious and start, maybe even taking time to be speaking to the divine, or we do something else to get a kind of refreshment in ourselves. Now that disinterest, with time, healing happens. And then when we get back into the spin, we can actually forget that we had made a decision that, we shouldn't get too involved. We should make more time for ourselves. And then we get back into that spin and we start again. So I'm giving you this kind of example because I want us to be reflective of how often in our day, the actions that we perform is what we're riding on the energy of the doing. And so when we carry on doing that, we can actually completely move away from ourselves. So this is an exercise you can do for yourself. And that's because when we're so busy, we're not acknowledging what we're absorbing. So when I go to sleep, what happens is that I physically disconnect from my senses and I allow the body to actually rest. It just means I'm not doing activity. But the subconscious, which is an element within the soul, wakes up. And all the things we've just been putting it the whole day in, the subconscious now takes all the files out and say, okay, right now we have to file these things away because tomorrow is a busy day and we can't add more files to it. And literally the subconscious starts to sort things out, make sense of the whole day and whatever. So when you're sleeping, you will dream. And it'll be interesting what will come out. But let's say you don't even have that capacity to recall what you dream. When you wake up first thing in the morning, all the things that you've actually been processing in the subconscious will actually be on a feeling level in your conscious mind. Now, this is just when you wake up, because if you can catch your feelings at the moment of waking up and you jot them down, you'll be absolutely amazed. So I invite you to try this out. Don't go and find a notebook early in the morning. You must keep this notebook next to you with your pen and your glasses and everything. You must do the minimum action that you possibly can do. Wake up, put the lights on, take your notebook and start writing. And the first question you ask yourself, how do I feel? And this is the honesty you need to actually catch. That your subconscious, which has been processing in a very quiet space, whatever it felt is actually going to expose itself. And you listen to yourself. This is the most merciful thing you can do for yourself, is to acknowledge the feelings that you've actually been through. And I found such amazing discoveries. Like if I felt that somebody was always at me, they would not give me a break. I would go to sleep with this thought, what have I done? Why? And I kind of emerged that thought and then I just go and sleep and I couldn't understand. And, really speaking in the morning, things that will emerge, and it's not even related to the person, but it's related to perhaps a negative aspect of myself, that maybe I'm being a little bit judgmental, or maybe I feel a little envious or jealous, and that's why that person actually triggers something in me. And it was very interesting how these little truths begin to emerge, but not in a harsh way, because I was being so kind and gentle to myself to say, how do you feel? And how do you feel about, so if something like that came about that I'm judgmental, then I feel, well, how do I feel about being judgmental? Is this the way I want to be? And just continue doing that. So the challenge is to write for at least 20 minutes, which is 3 pages of any page. And you'll tell me, oh gosh, how can you write so much? But if you sit with yourself, you'll be amazed. And if you look at it, what happens is that initially we're not used to listening to ourselves because we just suppress everything. When you open the chance and the self begins to feel the confidence that it's a safe space, you'll be so amazed how the things come about. But not only does it unblock the stuff that is not healthy, you'll be amazed at the potential. Like if you had to write an essay, if you had to do a presentation, the best of you will emerge, because merged in our subconscious is a glorious me, which I have not tapped into. So this process of tapping into our inner self is actually a time when I'm less physically active. Now, I wanted to relate this to, because, you know, as physical people in a physical world, we say we are human beings, but we've actually just become human doings. So take a pause on less action for a little bit and just try and do things at a pace that is not so fast. And you'll actually be amazed at that you're now stopping that energy of getting high on what you do, but you can start feeling what you're being. And that is something amazing. So you're not going to work hard on yourself. You're going to just let yourself emerge and grow like a seed. You know, you have to keep it under the sand and then just water it. And then it has the power to break open from the dirt and the shell and just become a living beauty.
Phenomenal. So just this purity then, if you have to sum it up, is with this respect to feeling, is the purity of my feeling is expressed when there's no duality, and I need to filter out the duality that has been brought in. And this exercise is a really beautiful one. So I think that's the challenge for the day, and starts with the rest of the time for each one of us who are, have done before, stopped doing, but to write. And really it is in expressing oneself very differently, unfiltered, and unconditionally. So
Ashika, before we close, I want to just share something. You know, you used the word dharana today, and you know, dharana is like a way of life. We bring it into our action, and it can also, some people use dharma and then they relate it to religion, dharma, and our way of life. So if I adopt this dharana, this way of life of just always listening to my subconscious, you know, we don't actually have to go back and try and sort things out or wait for feedback from people. We'll get our own feedback and we'll be guided because the core is real there.
Beautiful. And I think that's the magic of it, is that in today's world of fake news and many news, we're always seeking for a truth, and the truth lies within the self. And the more I accept the fact that I am the space of that truth, and I have the ability, the capability to be able to draw from a supreme being, from the divine, from the blueprint that we said yesterday, draw from that back my own space, we're able to come back to the rightfulness of things. So fantastic. So today brings the end of purity and the three virtues that we went through. So with permission, can we move into a little space of silence? So just allow yourself to absorb what you've just heard and filter for the self. And as you gently draw your conscious awareness to the center of your forehead, see yourself being light, just a point of light. And today, with the feeling of deep clarity, unlimited, easy and flowing nature, allow yourself to float, just carefree. And as you're doing this, you find yourself moving away from the physical towards the side of red golden light, a place where you draw the power from a supreme being and are guided to your essential and pure self. And you explore this from this space, very detached. You observe the garden of your mind. And as you do, you're able to see the beauty that's there. But you're also able to see things and feel what is stopping the growth of this essential beauty. And with great gratitude for they have become fences or defenses, you allow them to shift. You start a process of unmasking and moving away from using these which you've acquired. The anger with its ego, lust, desires, expectations that do not grant you peace, happiness, love, joy, or bring you wisdom. With this support, you take charge of your feelings and you recognize the emotions within yourself and you choose again just to be pure. Om Shanti. Thank you.
Today, as we practice the quality of purity and explore the virtue of honesty, purity that transmits honesty, I feel the openness and greatness to be who I am meant to be. I can see beyond the limited identity of the body. I am the living light. No fear to hide behind the masks of lust, ego, anger, greed, attachment. I feel the freedom from the pull of desires by stepping into my self-respect. I feel my true identity of being. I feel calm as all my expectations dissolve. I feel content as I know I have enough. I feel equanimity beyond preference, equal love for all. Om Shanti. And today, as we spot the color orange, let us go into that beautiful space and feel our beauty of love, peace, wisdom, power, happiness, and be the true self I am. Om Shanti. Take care. See you tomorrow.